as the title package indicated, today is going to be a little bit different because one of the challenges, one of the downsides for being in such a giant church like we are and spread out all over the city and all over the country and all kind of cool stuff going on, a lot that you don't know about and don't need to know about because you're busy raising kids and having jobs and dating and all that stuff. But you're part of this enormous thing that just keeps growing. And the downside for me personally is that I know so very few people. And you walk up to me in the halls or in the stores or in the community and go, "Hey, Andy, you don't know me." And then, it's not embarrassing. It's just unfortunate. So every once in a while I think, gosh, I wish I didn't have to preach a bunch of sermons and just communicate through sermons and email. I wish I could just come out and just talk. So today, I may start doing that more often, but today we're kind of between series. So I just thought I would just come out here and tell you some stuff that I've been thinking about. Now, if this is your first time with us, you could not have picked a better Sunday to be in the buildings with us or a better Sunday to be watching online. Even if somebody's forcing you to watch online, it won't feed you lunch unless you sit down and watch this, whatever the situation is. Because you're going to kind of find out what we're about. You're going to find out a little bit more about what I'm about and really what's most important to me as it relates to you. Because today, I want to give you 5 things. You're not going to need to write these down because you're only maybe 1 or 2 will be applicable to you. But 5 things that I wish for you. And here's what I mean by that. If we were to sit down over coffee or lunch and you were to say, "Andy, I've been going to the church for a while and, just kind of give me the bottom line. What do you hope happens to me as a part of, Brownsbridge Church or North Point Community Church or Southside Church or Woodstock City or Buckhead Church or, whatever campus that you're a part of or wherever you watch from? What's the thing?" So today, I just want to give you these 5 things. This to me is sort of the essence of who we are, but more importantly, it's kind of the essence of what I wish for you, just putting on my pastor, not preacher hat, but my pastor hat for just a few minutes. And these things will make your relationships richer, but more importantly, it'll make your faith journey more exciting. And if Christianity is boring to you, you're not doing it right, okay? Because Christianity isn't boring. Sometimes we're boring, but the Christian faith really is a journey, and it's an exciting journey. And the last thing I want is for your faith to get stale. In fact, I think one of the reasons people quit going to church, it's not that they necessarily quit believing everything. It just doesn't seem to matter anymore. So if your version of the Christian faith is just so vanilla that it doesn't even seem to matter, I don't want to offend you, but there may be something you don't know, or you may not be doing it right. So anyway, this isn't much of a sermon, so there's not going to be a whole lot of verses. This is just kind of from my heart to you. So here's the first thing, 5 things. The first one I'm going to spend the most time on, so when you look at your watch after the end of number 1, don't think that much time times 4 more, okay? We're not going to be here all day. So the first one is kind of the big one. In fact, I thought about making this the whole message because it's such a big idea. But I really, really, really wish for you, whether you're in high school or college, or you've been newlywed, or you're dating, or you just went through a divorce, or you're, senior and you're about to retire, regardless of your age, I wish for you a courageous act of obedience that cost you something. This is what I would wish for you, which is not what you would wish for you, but it's what I would wish for you. That you would have those moments, not every day, not every month, not even really every year. But I wish for you a moment in time, an experience every once in a while where you feel that internal nudge and you know that there's a divine element to that internal nudge and you need to do something. You need to make a big step, a courageous act of obedience that costs you something. A decision where you don't know where it's going to end up, but you know in your heart God has nudged you to do this. And not something that you manufacture, not something like, okay, I'm going to test God, I'm going to prove God, I'm going to quit my job, not that. I'm just going to marry the next person. No, this isn't that. This isn't foolishness. But to go too long without giving in to that internal nudge to do something unusual, again, not something that you manufacture, but something that you sense that, wow, every time I pray, every time I'm silent, every time I'm quiet, I just feel like God is nudging me in a direction to say yes to that nudge when it comes along. And by the way, this is how you become a deep Christian. This is how you become deep. I don't know if you grew up in a church tradition where, the sermon would be really confusing, and you thought it was confusing, but somebody said, that was so deep. And you thought, I just thought it was confusing. And they said, no, it's not confusing, it's deep. That's what we call deep. If you don't understand it, it's deep, okay? That's completely wrong, okay? Deep is not information, and deep certainly isn't confusing information. Deep is transformation that results from personal obedience to God. Deep is when you say yes And you don't know where that yes will lead. And that is the story of our faith from Genesis all the way through Jesus. It is the story of the faith of the people that you have the most respect for. In fact, the Christians that you have the most respect for, even if you're not a Christian, but you know some Christians, or it was your mother, or your dad, or your grandfather, and you don't necessarily want to be one, but you have so much respect. It's not what they knew that impressed you. It's the way they lived in spite of. That is what impressed you. It's the men and women who are faithful in spite of, who make big decisions in spite of the fact that they don't know how it's going to end up. That's what deepens our faith. It's saying yes. Deep is when you can't touch bottom, right? Deep is when you're in over your head. Deep in terms of spirituality and following God is obedience when there's no guaranteed outcome. And when you say yes to that internal nudge, and some of you know exactly what I'm talking about today because you've been wrestling with it, you've been talking about it, you talked to your girlfriend about it, your husband and you have been talking about it, you called your mom the other night to talk about it, you just have this sense. That's when your faith journey becomes exciting, because you will pray harder. No one will have to say, have you prayed? You're like, have I prayed? That's all I do is pray, because I'm so worried, because I'm saying, God, I'm going to do this. But of course, I'm so dialed into God, I don't even think I could sin. I mean, I am so, tuned in, because I'm so conscious of the fact that if God doesn't come through for me, then, I don't know what's going to happen, but I just sense this is what God wanted me to do. You will listen attentively. You'll take notes. The Bible will come alive. You'll lean in. And here's why. And I've been teaching you this for many, many years. When your expression of faith, you know what expression of faith is? Faith is, I believe. Faith is, I'm going to act on what I believe. That's what faith is. That's what walking by faith is. I believe it, therefore I'm going to act as if it's true. I'm not making it true, and I don't think believing it makes it true. That's magic. That's not Christianity, by the way. Faith, Christian faith is, I trust that what God has said is true, and I trust that what God is asking me to do is what I need to do. So when your expression of faith intersects with God's faithfulness, I'm telling you, something happens on the inside. You're never going to be the same. It becomes a stake in the ground. It becomes a defining moment for your faith. And anytime you tell this story, it's emotional, because you obeyed without any kind of guaranteed outcome. And God came through for you, and God responded. And I'm telling you, people can argue all day long, I don't know if there's a God, and you're like, okay, let me just tell you what happened. It becomes a stake in the ground for your faith. Again, if you go too long ignoring those internal nudges, and I'm just going to tell you, okay, the older you get, the more there is at stake, the more there is at risk, the less likely you are to say yes. And if you go too long without saying yes to God every once in a while when God nudges you on the inside, your faith will get stale, it will get old, it will get boring, it'll be, John 11, yeah, I know, Lazarus is raised from the dead again, what do you know? I mean, you'll just kind of go there, I know, 5 stones killed Goliath, I know the story. It'll just be flat, but I'm telling you, what makes you rich in faith and what makes you deep in faith is not what you know, and it's not even what you're learning. It's what you are experiencing. This is why Jesus, in his brilliant, brilliant way, said to the people in the first century, not sit down and take notes or learn from me. His initial invitation was, come, follow me. And if you don't get this right, and if you ignore this for too long, you'll get cynical as a Christian. You'll start complaining about all the dumbest things, all the wrong things. You'll start to get old as a Christian, but not mature, just older, okay? So, for us, the reason this is such a big deal for me, and the reason I love to talk about it to our churches, is this is the story of our church. Because I had a really good job with a really good future, and Sandra and I just felt that nudge to leave. And every time something awesome happens at one of our churches, honestly, it's so emotional to us, especially baptism stories. She'll turn to me, and we can't even speak anymore during baptism. We can't. We just look at each other, and we know what we're thinking, because so many years ago, there was this big, emotional, incredible baptism, and Sandra said, what if, this is what she said, she whispered in the service, what if we hadn't left? In other words, what if we had stayed with the secure thing and the sure thing and the we got it all worked out thing and all the details are in place thing? What if we hadn't left? It's like, it's still so emotional for me. Then a few years ago, we felt that nudge to become foster parents. I mean, talk about scary. What? The door's you're gonna get a phone call, and we're gonna bring some children with a plastic bag with the only clothes they have and leave them at your house. I'm busy. I mean, I'm really busy, right? But sometimes you just know. And when you know, you gotta go. A few years ago, our lead pastor at Brownsbridge Church left suddenly. Those of you at Brownsbridge, you know this. I told you the story. 2 days, 3 days later, I'm sitting on my couch, having my quiet time, and it's just like, I don't know, it wasn't a voice. God didn't speak to me. I wish he would. If God could speak to me, I'd give him a list of things I'd like to know, like some really important things, like a cure for a disease. That would be cool, but it's for me, I don't know what I would understand what he was saying if he told me. But I'm sitting on my couch, and I just knew. It was just a moment where I knew, Andy, you go to Brownsbridge on Sunday, you step in as lead pastor, and you commit to a year. It was just like, you just know. And I told Sandra, she said, what are you going to do about your other jobs? I said, I don't know. Sometimes you just know. And it was an extraordinary year. I mean, it was and everything got done. When you know, you just got to go. For some of you, it's time to leave that job. And you're scared to death. Of course you're scared to death. Guess what? If you're a Christian and you feel a nudge to leave your job and do something else, no one's going to have to tell you to pray. You're going to show up at church and see these worship songs, and the words are going to light up, and you're going to go like, that's my favorite song. And your husband's going to be like, we've been singing that song for 8 years. I know, but I love that song. Why? Because the words, the lyrics are going to connect with what you've stepped out in faith, not to do something foolish, not something you came up with. Some of you need to take that job. I just don't feel qualified. Guess what? You step into a job, you step into a role, you're not qualified. No one's going to have to tell you to pray. No one's going to have to tell you to open the scripture. No one's going to have to tell you to live dependent on God. You're going to walk into the office every day going, I'm in over my head, and God's going to go, good. That's what deep is. Deep is over your head where you have to look up to me for help. This will be a story you tell for the rest of your life. Some of you need to get out of this country and go on a Global X trip with us. Every time we talk about serving people in other parts of the world, you're like, I really need to do that. I think I'll just support somebody else. Here's the check. Because for many of us, it is easier to write checks than to get up and go do something. And the older you get and the richer you get, the easier it is to say, I'm just going to write a check. I don't want to go to all the hassle. And I feel like your Father in heaven says, well, then you miss out, because you'll never know what I would have done in you if you had gotten up and done something. And, respond to that internal nudge to do something outside of your comfort zone. Some of you, you've been for a long time, it felt like you needed to go teach school and get out of the marketplace and go back into a world that you've maybe felt called to or even trained to do, teach school. Some of you need to volunteer. Every time we talk about volunteers, it's like, I know I need to. And some of you need to downsize and do something else with all that money. Some of you need to start that business you've been putting off, but you're scared to death, but you just kind of know. It's almost like it's like a God thing. It's like, I feel like this is like a spiritual thing. Some of you, if I could get real personal, you need to break up with her. You need to break up with him. And you've known, let me just put on my parent hat for a minute. You have known this for so long. Your friends know he or she is a loser for you and not good for you. They're not losers in life. It's just that you aren't good together. It's time, and you're so scared, but what if nobody else comes along? Guess what? They may not. But you'll never know. And here's the thing. Look up here. I'm not done. Well, this is very important. When you get out of that relationship, do you know what's going to happen on the inside of you? Your attentiveness to your heavenly Father is going to increase exponentially, because as long as you are in a relationship that you know you shouldn't be in, you have put God to the side because he keeps getting on your case. And do you know why he gets on your case? Because he loves you. So get out of that relationship. Break up. Some of you just need I got one clap down here. Come on. You must be a mother. Are you? Yes. Yeah. We got a mom down here going, hallelujah. Somebody finally said it. Some of you, I challenge you all the time, singles, who I'm just so glad we have so many college students and single again people in our churches. I love the fact that you found our churches. But you need to take a year off dating. And that scares you to death. Do you know what's going to happen to you during your year off dating? Something's going to happen on the inside of you that when you go back into the market, you are going to be a different and better person. One day Jesus is walking along with his guys, and he offers a man the invitation of a lifetime. He turns to just apparently some random person in the crowd. I don't know, maybe this is a guy who's been following him for so long. Jesus has been paying attention to him, thinking, you know what? I think this guy has potential. And he turns to him and he says, follow me. Now, The guy he was pointing to has no idea what hangs in the balance of this invitation. This is just another rabbi. And where's he from? Nazareth? Nazareth? I've never heard of it. I don't even know anybody from Nazareth in Galilee. I mean, that's like the wrong side of the country, you know. But Jesus turns to this guy and says, follow me. This is the invitation of a lifetime, okay? And he says, but he replied, Lord, first let me go and bury my father. Okay, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this. His dad wasn't even dead yet. I mean, if his dad was dead, he wouldn't be there following Jesus. He'd be at his father's funeral, because when people died back then, they didn't like wait for days. They were like, boom, funeral, bury him quick. You can't let the body sit out there. And they didn't burn people's body. They actually buried them and then collected their bones later. So his father wasn't even dead yet. This was his way of saying, look, I would love to follow you. Thank you. I'm so honored. But I got to get some things worked out and sorted out. First, I got to get things worked out and sorted out at home. And then when I get things worked out and sorted out, we get that whole will thing done, and my father's gone. Ring me up. I'll follow you, right? Do you know what his name was? No. We'll never know. Opportunity came and gone. Missed. Still another, same guy, same day rather, not same guy, same day. Still another said, hey, okay, Jesus, loser, okay, but I will follow you, Lord. I will follow you. Okay, this guy, I will follow you. But first, let me go back and at least say goodbye to my family. Same thing. I got to go back, get some things sorted out, worked out. And later, when these gentlemen measured what they gained by hesitating against what they gained, or what they didn't gain by going. Later on, when they thought through what they gained by hesitating and measured against what they lost by saying no to Jesus, no comparison. Bad decision. And then Jesus says something that seems very harsh to us. It's not quite as harsh to the first century audience as it is to us, but it was still kind of harsh. He said, look, let the dead bury their own dead. But you, he says to this guy, I'm giving you the opportunity of a lifetime. You have no idea what hangs in the balance of your decision right then and there in that moment to follow me. I'm inviting you to do something out of the ordinary. I'm inviting you, in his case, he was saying, I'm inviting you to be a part of history. Peter, come over here, Peter. Peter, people 2,000 years from now are going to name their children after this guy. What do you think about that? Andrew, come here. They're going to name their kids after Judas. Okay, Bartholomew, come here, lots of Barts, right? Jesus said, look, but you go and proclaim the kingdom of God. Now, this was a first century invitation. It's a little bit different than God's invitation to you, but its same is true for you. What you gain by hesitating does not compare to what you gain by saying yes. So just say yes and obey. I'll tell you a couple of quick examples. Jeff and Wendy Henderson at Gwinnett Church. He's the lead pastor at Gwinnett Church right now. Jeff and Wendy were leading he was in the marketplace, had a great job with an extraordinary company that all of you have purchased products from, perhaps, or probably. And so Jeff is in marketing, got a great job, but he's leading a starting point group, which is an environment for people who are coming back to faith or who have questions. And they were leading the starting point group in their home. And Jeff and Wendy started feeling that nudge, and Jeff is a preacher's kid, so he knew that, I know too much to know that this is probably not, I don't know. That nudge to get out of the marketplace and to step full-time into ministry. And of course he wrestled with it, and of course he prayed through it. And then Jeff and Wendy said yes. And they came in on our staff and began leading starting point groups professionally. And then Jeff was the first lead pastor at Buckhead Church.